Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. We will start in 2 minutes, inshallah.
وعليكم السلام.
وعليكم السلام.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Oh wait.
What?
Assalamu alaikum.
What?
Sorry for the delay. I had another class right before this that went a little bit long. Okay, alhamdulillah. So I see a lot of familiar names. Murtaza, cool. I don't remember the cool part last time. We have okay, Fariha, Huzaifa Murtaza, okay. Brothers and sisters, Arush Arhan. Alina, is a student or a parent?
Student.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so it's been a long time since Ramadan, right? That was our last class. So what, March, April, May, June, July, 3 months. So this is going to be a short summer course. We're just going to talk about 4 different topics and try to, refresh whatever we can and just not take it too intense, right? It's summer break. You guys don't want to, have too much coursework. So we're just going to talk about 4 topics. Today's topic is going to be something which we've done before, but we always need to learn more about it, which is prayer. How exactly is every step performed? Okay, so since you guys are all previous students, I'm not going to do any introduction or anything. I'm just going to get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to go one by one. Okay, one by one, and let's just start with the prayer. Okay, so we're not going to do wudu or anything. That hopefully we covered already. So we're just going to talk about prayer from the beginning to the end, just 2 rakats, right? Just how to pray 2 rakats. Okay, so the very first thing. Okay, let's see. Let's start with Faria, since your camera's on and your hand is raised. Was the first thing when we start prayer?
Well, you have to do with you before you start.
Okay, very good. Let's list a few things that we need to do before we start prayer. Okay, so Faria said wudu, number 1. Murtaza.
So when you read namaz, like you have to do like Allahu Akbar with like your hands, and like you have to touch your ears, and then you have to like fold the hands over each other and put it
Okay,
back.
we'll stop at there. Very good. So say Allahu Akbar. Now, okay, now you guys guide me. My hands are here. Tell me if to raise it higher or lower or what.
To raise it probably in the middle, like there.
Here? Yeah. Okay. Do I have to touch my ears or can it just be at the level?
You have to touch your ear.
So you don't actually have to touch the ears. Some people do that just so that they can kind of get at the same level as the ears. So you just get at the same level. So if you touch your ears, you're at that level, right? So you don't actually have to touch them. And then some people, they kind of go like this. When you go like that, you're pointing your hands up, right? You want to face it towards the Qibla. So just like this, Allahu Akbar. And by the way, boys and girls pray slightly differently, right? So the girls are going to be actually lower, up to the shoulders. You don't have to go all the way to the ear. You just like that. Allahu Akbar. Okay, very good. So takbir, Allahu Akbar. Okay, very good. So we talked about wudu, talked about takbir. There's some other things we have to make sure are set before we pray. Before we get to Faria, let's have some other people.
Don't you do niyyah before you pray?
Nia, very good. Okay, so let me ask you guys a question, and you guys say the answer. What if someone is praying Zohar namaz, and you already prayed Zohar? Can you join them behind, following them with the intention of nafl?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Now, the opposite. What if someone is praying nafl and you didn't pray your Zohar? Now you just see them in the masjid and you go behind them and you make the intention to pray Zohar behind them. Will that count as your Zohar?
No.
Why not?
Because in Zohar, you're reading 4 rakats, and for Nafil, you only read 2 rakats.
Okay, that's a good point. Let's change it up.
And when they read Nafil, they read Qul Ahad 3 times, but in like Zohar, you don't have to read the surah 3 times.
In which rakat?
In Nafal, the first rakah, and then in Zohar, the first rakah, you don't have to read the surah 3 times.
In Nafal, you could read whatever. You don't have to read Surah Ikhlas 3 times. You could read it once. You could read from anywhere else in the Quran, right? Now let's give one other example, which is it's Fajr time. Okay? It's Fajr time, and someone is praying their 2 rakat sunnah of Fajr, right? You just see them praying, and then you have to pray your fard. So you just stand behind them and start following them, but you're praying fard and they're praying sunnah. Will this count for your?
Yeah, you could do that.
You could do that.
I think.
Anyone else? Because they're not praying Fajr, they're just praying Sunnah, and you're praying Fajr behind them. So your Imam is basically praying Sunnah, and you're following praying Fard.
No, you can't.
Okay, why not?
Because like if he's reading a different thing, but like you're reading something that people should follow, but Sunnah is just for like
So
people
what is higher, Fard or Sunnah?
first.
Fard. Okay. So the Imam, he is, he's the leader of the prayer. So the Imam's prayer has to be higher than those who are following him, or at the same level, right? So you can't pray behind someone whose prayer is at a little lower level than yours. Okay? Now, does anyone know what madhab is? What a madhab is? Does anyone have heard of Hanafi or Shafi or all these things? Maliki, Hanbali, Salafi, Sunni, Shia?
I have, but I never understood what it was.
Okay, that's one of the topics which I think is either next week or the week after. But basically, there are slightly different rules in the way people pray, and even sometimes what you can eat and things within Muslims, but they're based on different things. So sometimes you will see another person who might, when they go into ruku, they'll say Allahu Akbar, then go into ruku. But we don't do that. Both are correct opinions, but they each follow a different madhab. So we'll talk about that. I know it might be kind of confusing, but we'll talk about it, I think, next week or the week after. Faria, you have a question?
Like you said, like Shifa, I think, and I think it means like healing.
Shifa? Oh no, I said Shia. Shifa is healing, yes. Yeah, Shifa is healing. Very good. Okay, so we talked about you have to have niyyah. So niyyah just means you don't have to actually say something. You just know in your mind that, remember when we were talking about fasting in Ramadan, you just have to know that, I'm fasting for Ramadan. So you go and you just know, okay, I'm praying fard. Sometimes you can say some people have memorized it in Urdu or Arabic or English, I'm praying 4 rakat, fard, for Zohar, however you say it, that's okay. But you don't have to actually say it in words or even in your mind. You don't have to say, you just have to know that I'm praying Zohar or Asr, etc. So you have to know that. You can't just get up and pray 4 rakats and then after the prayer is done say, oh, I'll just count that as my Dhuhr. It has to be from before. So niyyah, wudu, right, your takbir. What else do you have to make sure before you start prayer? Which way do you look? Which way do you face?
The
You
Qibla.
have to face the Qibla.
Qibla. Okay, very good. Now sometimes, like I was somewhere with a group of, friends, and it was Asr time. So we all pulled out our iPhones and everyone had a different app. My compass is saying this way, his, Islamic Finder compass is saying that way. So how do you, sometimes it even happened, they said the opposite way. Before we get into too much detail, do you guys know, just as like a kind of natural way of knowing the Qibla, which direction is the Qibla in terms of northwest, southeast?
It's like northwest, like 83 degrees.
Northeast, about 48 degrees.
Oh, northeast, my mistake.
Yeah. So see my screen. This is north, south, east, I think, right? East, west. So
No,
northeast.
no, it's west is on the other side. You go.
Okay, I guess it's reversed. So this is right side for you guys?
Yep.
Okay, so this is east, west. So you'll pray this way. Northeast. Okay. Now, if you guys know about like, degrees, right? So you're at 0 degrees, 45, 90, etc. So you're going to pray about 48 degrees. Can you pray 45 degrees and not 48? What do you guys think? Just a little bit. Like, let's say the Qibla is this way and I'm facing like slightly this way.
I think it could count.
It counts, yes. You have basically, how much? I think it's like 45-degree leeway, right? So let's say the Qibla is this way. If you get within this range, right, somewhere this way, then your prayer will count. But if you start praying this way, then it won't count. But there's another point to make, which is you try your best. Let's say you're outside, it's a cloudy day. By the way, the sun rises in which direction? East or west? Or north or south? Anyone know which way the sun rises from?
The sun rises from the east.
Sun rises from the east, right? Because one of the signs of the Day of Judgment is the sun will rise from the west. That's one way to remember. So the sun will rise from the east, right? So again, I think it rises from the east, sets in the west. Now, that tells you the direction, right? So let's say you look at the sky and you see the sun is in this direction. Let's say the sun is this direction, right? And you're saying, okay, it's close to Maghrib time. I know the sun sets in the west. So that means that's west. So then you just position yourself. If that's west, this is east, that's north, and then northeast is that way. Do you guys understand how you can conclude which way the Qibla is just by looking at the sun? No, yes, maybe?
Maybe.
Maybe? Try to do it next time. Next time you pray, like maybe even Zohar time, once you pray, then, well, Zohar time is kind of hard because the sun is high, right? It's not in any direction. But try it today at Asr time, okay? Look at the direction you pray. Then maybe go outside and see the sun. You'll see the sun is in that direction of the sky, and that is west because it's heading towards the west. So then see, okay, west, east, north, northeast. That should match the direction you have your Qibla in your home, okay? What if someone, it's a cloudy day, their phone, their phone is dead. They have no way of knowing which way is the Qibla. Let's say you're on a road trip, you stop, there's no way. You try to ask, there's no one who really knows. So where do you pray? Can you just start praying in any direction and your prayer will count?
No.
No.
So what do you do?
Look
Do
at the
you
sun.
skip prayer and wait till you can find out, or what do you do?
You'll try to look at the sun.
Yeah, so sometimes it's cloudy and the sun's not out, or it's nighttime. Basically, this is what you have to do. Try your best to figure out which way is the Qibla. Let's say it's a nighttime, you can't see the sun, you don't have any compass, then what you should do is try to ask someone. Ask, in the gas station or wherever you are, say, hey, do you know which way is northeast? And they can tell you, then you'll pray. Or let's say they don't know, then what do? Then try to figure out, maybe you're on the highway going west. So okay, this direction is approximately west, this is northeast. So you at least have to try. If you try and you end up facing the complete opposite direction, let's say, okay, you tried your best and you end up facing the complete opposite direction, will your prayer count? Because you're not facing the Qibla, you're facing the opposite direction.
But you at least tried to, so
Yes, very good. Since you tried, your prayer will count. What if in the same case scenario, you just said, oh, I don't know which way is the Qibla, and let me just pray here, prayer time is on, let me just pray this direction. And it turned out you prayed the correct direction of the Qibla. Okay, so you got lucky. Will your prayer count?
Yeah.
Actually, no. Because you didn't try. Because you have to make sure that you're facing the Qibla. Because in your mind, you don't know where you're facing. I'm just facing a random direction. Later, you found out, oh, I got lucky. So that's the thing. Intention in Islam and everything and anything you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at your intention and He looks at your actions. Doesn't always look at the result, right? For example, many prophets, some prophets, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the day of judgment, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will see a huge amount of, he'll see prophets coming in. You'll see some prophets, they have a large group of people following them. Another prophet, they'll have maybe one or two. Another prophet will come and they have 0 followers on the day of judgment. And then he'll see another huge group and he'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is this my ummah? Are these my followers? Allah will say, no, they're not your followers. These are the followers of Musa alayhi salam. So then he'll say, but look over there. Prophet will turn and he'll see huge amount of people, east and west, just covering. He say those are your followers. Okay, but the point I want to take out from this hadith is that those prophets who are coming on the day of judgment and they don't have a single follower, will they still get rewarded for spreading the message, for calling people towards Allah? Will they still get rewarded?
Yes, they will.
Yes, they'll still get rewarded, but no one followed them. But that's not a failure. So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't always look at, the results, right? He always looks at your intention and your action. So as long as you're doing the proper thing, then even if you end up doing something wrong, Allah will still reward you. So that's the important thing. And if you get it right, that's even better. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, so we talked about Qibla, wudu, takbir. Okay, what else do you have to do when you're praying? What else do you have to make sure? Something similar to wudu, which is cleanliness. You just have to make sure that there's no impurity on your body. You have to make sure there's no impurity on the place where you're praying.
No, najasa?
Najasa, very good. Right? It doesn't mean dirt.
Also
Dirt,
another one.
what was that?
I also know another one, like
What was that?
where it's like you have to like cover your body like by wearing clothes.
Very good. Okay, so
Like-
these two things. Yeah, very good.
Yes. Instead
So
of wearing
the
clothes.
yes. So najasa, right? So dirt or mud, this is not najasa. Najasa doesn't mean something just dirty, or like dust and all that stuff. Najasa means something like, like blood or, urine, or, you have like vomit, stuff like that. Really like gross things that, like come out of your body like blood, etc. Like we had Qurbani a few weeks ago, right? We were slaughtering animals. So when you slaughter the animal, so much blood is just coming on us. So we have to make sure we either wash that before praying or change our clothes or something, right? And even when you slaughter an animal, just so many things get on you. You have to make sure you're clean, because you're praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't be, you can't be dirty. You can't even go to school if you're dirty and smelly, right? So you don't want to stand in front of Allah dirty. Now there are some details about like how much you can have, like blood. If you bleed, can you pray? There's some details to that. I'm sure some of you know. If you just have a little paper cut or a slight little cut, and you can see red, you see, oh, there's blood, but it's not like dripping or moving from the place, your wudu is fine. You can pray. But if it starts dripping and moving, like it's a deep cut or something like that, or let's say you have a nosebleed, or your mouth bleeds and when you spit there's like red or pink, then that will break your wudu. Okay, so cleanliness, najasa. I'm going a little fast because we're only talking about this for 1 week. If this was the whole summer just talking about prayer, then we could go in detail. And Arhan's opinion, which Arhan's your point, which is you have to cover yourself. So how much do you have to cover yourself, right? Can you pray in shorts?
There you
No.
go.
Until your neck.
Say it again.
To cover yourself until your neck.
Shorts
Yeah.
have to be up to your knees.
Yes. So shorts, technically you can pray, although it's better not to. But sometimes you have no option and you're wearing shorts and prayer time is moving, so you have to pray. So it has to cover your knees. Okay? Has to cover your knees. And for boys, you have to cover at least, now this is not like the ideal, this is the bare minimum. You have to cover from your belly button all the way till below your knees. Like not including your belly button. So right below your belly button to your knees, at least that much has to be covered. Now you may think like, you know, who's gonna pray without a shirt? Well, sometimes you go to Hajj or Umrah, right? You're just wearing your towel. Sometimes you could just take it off and you just pray. And yeah, very good. Now for girls, you have to cover the whole body except your face, your hands, and your feet. That has to be covered. Okay. Now, what if sometimes a little part, you know, let's say you're going in ruku and a little bit of your knees start showing, or you know your shirt lifts up a little bit. That's why, you know, it's better to wear longer shirts or kurtas or something that when you go into ruku and sajda, for boys it doesn't go up, right? Because you're gonna be exposing yourself. Or for girls, let's say like they're in sajda and accidentally a little bit shows. A little bit showing is fine. Just quickly fix it and continue praying. But if you know, if you're praying in like a huge part of your clothes somehow comes off, I don't know, you forgot to put on your belt or something, then that might break your prayer. You should restart. Okay, so we talked about 4 or 5 things. Okay, very good. Let's get into the prayer. Alina, do you have a question? Hand is raised. If you have a question, you can ask, but otherwise I'll continue. Okay, so now the prayer. Okay, so we talked about Qibla, we talked about so many things. Okay, so takbir, right? I said you don't have to touch your ears. Some people just do it so that they can reach that point. It helps them get to that level. But otherwise, just like this is fine. Okay. Now, where do you put your hands? Let's start with boys. Where do you put your hands for the boys? Right. Right. Anyone? Any of the boys can answer maybe? Arhan or Huzaifa? Where do we put our hands?
Like around like the stomach or like lower and like a bit higher.
You can put right below the belly button. Right below.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too low, right? You don't want it like too low. Just right below the belly button. And then for girls, yes, for you.
Below the belly button.
For girls, it'll be higher.
For girls, you need to put it on your chest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Okay. And how do you hold your hands? Like, do you go like this? You go like this? You go like this? How do you hold your hands?
Overlap them.
Overhand.
You go like this.
Yeah, very good. That's one way. There's another way, which is to grab it. And then there's another way where you can hold it with 2 fingers and then put your hands. So a few different ways. You can put it on top, you can grab it, or you can hold it with 2 fingers and like this. Okay? Now, what if you hold your hand differently? What if you just put your hands like this, or what if you just have your hands down? Does that break your prayer? What do you have to do? How do you fix that?
Like, so basically, it doesn't break your mass, but like you have to like fix it before it gets too long.
Yeah. So it's important to know what is going to break your prayer and what won't break your prayer, right? So your hand position, it won't break your prayer, right? But it's better to do it, and you should continue doing it. But if you don't have it, then it won't break your prayer. Okay, whereas if you're praying facing the Qibla and then for some reason you turn completely the other way, that's gonna break your prayer. So it's important to know what's gonna break your prayer. Or if you break your wudu while you're praying, or anything like that. Now, one other important thing I want to mention is sometimes, people are, again, this goes back to madhab, which will say there's a difference of opinions, means there are different groups within Muslims who follow slightly different rules. So one thing is reading inside prayer. Right? Sometimes some people, they don't know some dua or they don't know some surah, so they hold the Quran or they hold their phone or hold something and they're reading and they're praying. Now, again, like I said, there's different madhabs, there's different opinions. The opinion that we follow is that that will break your prayer. You can't hold it and read. Okay? You can't do things inside prayer which are you can't do certain actions. You can't like learn or read while you're praying. Now, what if you just, someone's standing in front of you and they have a shirt that says Nike and you accidentally read their shirt? That won't break your prayer because you didn't intentionally try to read their shirt. Some people have like a shirt that has like a whole paragraph. Now, if you're praying and then you look at their shirt and you start reading the whole paragraph, then that's gonna break your prayer. But if you just look up and you see a word and you just like, obviously you're gonna understand it. You just looked at it. You're not trying to read it, so that won't break your prayer, right? Sometimes you're in prayer and you're in the masjid and you look up and you accidentally see the clock. You see, oh, it says 6 p.m. and then you look down. You didn't mean to. That won't break your prayer. But if you're purposely looking at the clock, what time is it? How long is this prayer gonna take? That's gonna break your prayer. Okay. So that's one important thing to know. Let me take a pause for any questions. You guys have not new questions, questions related to what we just talked about. Any questions about what I mentioned?
Nope.
Okay. We still cool, Murtaza?
Yep.
Okay. We'll see about that next week when I ask you guys to review some of these questions. Faria?
So what if you like start moving or something is itching you and just start
Very good question. How much can you move in prayer before it breaks, right? So like I said, in prayer, you can't do things that, you can't do like too much action or too much moving, right? Like you can't eat, you can't drink, you can't talk to someone, you can't laugh. Laughing out loud in prayer, like out loud, that will actually break your prayer and your wudu. That's gonna break your wudu.
But if you start laughing and you try to hold it in, then
Yeah, if you like kind of, that happened, sometimes it happens. Some kid runs around and he says something funny, and it's hard to concentrate. So you might just smile. Just like the smile, try to hold it, whatever. That won't break your prayer. So try to concentrate again, right? But if you start like, laughing with your mouth open and sound so much so that the person next to you hears you laugh, then your wudu is broken. Not just your prayer, your whole wudu is broken, right? Because your wudu breaks because you're standing in front of Allah praying. You should not be laughing. Okay, it happened actually. There was a story at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. They were praying in the masjid, and one of the blind companions, this blind Sahabi, he was walking, and he walking towards the prayer, and he accidentally fell into a ditch. He tripped. He's blind. He didn't see. Maybe he uses a stick, but he missed it, and he fell into a ditch.
nobody should laugh at that. So that's
No one should laugh at that. But you know what? Like sometimes, it's not controllable. Like maybe you're sitting at an assembly at your school, and they call some kid, and that kid goes up and he accidentally trips. Now you're gonna hear some laughter. It's not nice. You're gonna hear some laughter, unfortunately, because sometimes people find pranks, or not pranks, people find other people's, pain or embarrassing moments funny. So that just happens. So the companions actually, they, maybe he like screamed. He probably fell and he's like, oh. So the companions, they started laughing. So after the prayer, the Prophet ﷺ turned around and he said, you guys have to make wudu again. This broke your prayer and your wudu. Okay. Now your question for you, like about itching or like moving a little bit. Sometimes you might see some people's phone, it starts ringing in their prayer. Now what can you do? Like, let's say they have a really obnoxious song as their ringtone, right? And it's just going blasting in the masjid, and especially in Taraweeh, the Imam's trying to pray, concentrate. Or maybe even worse, when you're praying like Dhuhr and Asr, when it's completely silent and someone's phone just starts blasting, you can move a little bit, just reach in your pocket, press the button, and go back to pray. You can do that. It won't break your prayer. And you should do that because it's going to distract everyone. Happened to me actually. I was leading Taraweeh and I took my phone out of my pocket before prayer. I put it like on the floor because it was like kind of a little too much in my pocket next to my keys. So I put it on the floor and I was praying. Now I had an alarm for some reason at that time to remind me of something. I'm leading Taraweeh and I'm praying, and then my phone goes off. First, I think it's someone behind, and then I realize, oh, that's my alarm. It's ringing. I reach into my pocket to turn off my phone. My phone's not there, and then my phone's just on the floor, just ringing, ringing, ringing. So I shortened the prayer. I finished it, and then I turned it off. So you can move that much. Let's say you have an itch, you have a nose itch, right? Try your best not to scratch it. Try your best to stay as still as you can. So the more you move around, imagine like you're in an X-ray, or you're somewhere where moving, like you're at a dentist. They're doing something to you. You don't want to be moving around. It's gonna mess it up. So similarly, when you're praying, you're getting like these blessings from above. The angels are there. You're getting nur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you start moving around, it's gonna like kind of mess that connection up. Not too much, but you don't want to be moving around. So if you have an itch, try to hold it. If you have to itch it, scratch it, just scratch it and go back. Don't like play with your collar, or play with your watch, play with your hijab, or we have beards. Sometimes it's just natural, like we just like you just stroke your beard. And try not to do any of that. Now, it's not really too clear how much you can move before your prayer breaks, but if you just start stretching and then go back, if someone looks at you, they're going to be like, this guy is not praying. That's one way to see. If someone looks at you and says that person is not praying, that's an indication that you moved too much and your prayer is invalid. Okay, so sometimes people, their hand might be hurting for some reason, so they go like this, stuff like that. That's too much. Just little movements. Sometimes there's a child walking, you just like push him back, or like I said, like your phone, you just have to reach in. Stuff like that is not going to break your prayer. Or sometimes your janimaz moves. Sometimes you're praying outside, right? And your prayer mat, the wind blows it. So when you're going down, you just quickly fix it. Little things like that are fine. It won't break your prayer, and it's not wrong. But moving a lot, that's not good. Okay, very good. Okay, so you recite, you say Allahu Akbar. Then what do you read?
Subhanallah.
Yes, very good. Subhanakallahumma wa
Do you
bihamdika.
read the Sana?
Yeah, Arhan, would you like to say the whole thing for us? If you remember it?
I forgot.
Okay, that's fine. I know sometimes like you only remember it in prayer, or like sometimes like, the eating dua, you only remember when you're eating, or the bathroom dua. If someone asks, sometimes you don't remember, and then when you go into the bathroom, then you remember. So anyone else want to help? Let's see, Huzaifa, would you like to say the Thana?
Oh,
I just remembered the Sana.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sana subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa tabaraka kasbuka wa ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayrak.
Yeah, good. So you don't have to say thana. You just say subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa tabaraka ismuk. You say wa tabaraka ismuk. You don't have to say wa tabaraka kasmuk. Wa tabaraka ismuk. Okay, very good. And then what do you say?
Surah Fatiha.
Do you just start Alhamdulillah?
Yes.
What about A'udhu Billah?
Like you said, like the algorithm, and then start right.
Good. Say Thana, say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahman. Very good. What if you forget to read the Thana?
Like if it's on accident and you just remember, you can like read it and then restart. Fatiha
What if you don't remember until you finish your prayer? Do you have to re-pray?
You do like the sijda movement and then go back to Atayatu.
So for Thana, you don't have to do it. For Thana, if you forget, you're completely fine. Okay? Now let's go on to Surah Fatiha. What if you forget Surah Fatiha and you just skip and you read, you say, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik tabaraka ismuka ta'ala jadduka jalla thana'uka wa la ilaha ghayruk a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem bismillahir rahmanir rahim qul huwallahu ahad Allahu samad, right? And then you go into ruku and then you remember, right? So now it's too late, right? You go into ruku and then now you remember. So what are your options? Does your prayer break? Do you do sajdas sahu? What do you do?
To do the sijda thing probably.
Yes, sajda sahu. I'll talk about it at the end. So keep this in mind. Let me write it in the chat so you guys remember. Sajda sahu. Sajda sahu. Keep this in your notes if you haven't heard of this before, but it's basically if you make a mistake in a prayer, right? Or you forget something. Sahu means to forget. So there are 3 types of mistakes. One type of mistake is if you forget it or something, your prayer is fine, right? For example, you forget to read Thana, prayer is fine. The second type of mistake, you miss it or you forget to do it, then you have to do sajda to sahu. And the third type of mistake, if you forget to do it or you do something, completely breaks your prayer, you have to repeat the prayer. So the second type, which is sajda to sahu, just a quick review. Sajda to sahu, when you make certain types of mistakes, right before you finish your prayer, right? You say at-tahiyatu lillah wa salatu wa tayyibat, you read the whole at-tahiyat. Then instead of reading Allahumma salli ala Muhammad and then dua, right after the tahiyat, you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah once. Allahu Akbar, go into sajda. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, second sajda. Allahu Akbar. Then you say at-tahiyat, Durood Sharif, and dua again. Okay? Does anyone know how to do this and would like to repeat the process? Maybe Aryan, are you familiar with Sajdatul Sahu or how to do it? Would you like to just explain again to the class?
Yeah. Isn't it just like after Atayat in the like the last rakat, you do like one salam to the right and then you go down 2 times in sister and then you repeat the Atayat and the rest of it and then finish his prayer, right?
Very good. Very good. That's it. So sometimes you're praying in the Jamaat and the Imam does that. He says one salam, then he goes into sajda, and then everyone, you get confused. But this is so that we don't get confused. We know that maybe the Imam made some mistake and he is just doing his sajda of sahu. It's 2 sajdas actually, sajda of sahu, meaning he's doing the 2 sajdas for something he forgot or made a mistake. Now, what if you make a mistake in every rakat? Let's say you forgot to do something in the first rakat, and then the second rakat, third, fourth. How many sajda to sahus do you have to do? 4? 1 for each mistake? So you only have to do The once, which means two sajdas, right? So you do two sajdas for one mistake, for two mistakes, for 10 mistakes, just two sajdas. You don't have to keep doing it. So that's pretty nice, right? Okay. All right, so very good. So if someone, now let's say the opposite scenario. Someone reads Surah Fatiha and they forget to read another surah. They say, Wala dhalleen, Ameen, Allahu Akbar, straight into ruku. And this is again in the, just a quick review question. If you're praying 4 rakat of Dhuhr, you read Surah Fatiha in all of them, right? But which rakats do you have to read another surah?
So on the last two rakats you don't read a surah, but on the
Yeah.
first two rakats you read Surah Fatiha with the surah.
Very good. Okay, so let's say we're in the first rakat of Dhuhr. So we're supposed to read Fatiha and another surah. So now we're in the case where we read Fatiha and we skipped a surah. So now what do you have to do? Is it fine? Do you have to do sajdatul sahu or do you have to re-pray?
Sahu.
Good, very good. Farhan, yes, very good. Okay, now after that, you read Surah Fatiha, you read another surah, you go into ruku, right? Allahu Akbar, you go into ruku. Now, what do you read in ruku?
Subhana Rabbiyala, Subhana Rabbiyala, Subhana Rabbiyala.
That's what you read in sajda, right?
Subhana Rabbiyal Azim.
Yes, very good. Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. So you read that. Now, what if you just go into ruku and you stay silent and then you get up? What do you have to do? Is it fine? Do you have to do sajda sahu or you have to, it breaks your prayer?
Sahu.
So here you don't have to do anything.
What?
Yeah. Right? You don't have to do anything. You forgot to read it. It doesn't break your prayer. You don't have to do so. Okay. You should read the dua Subhana Rabbil Azim at least 3 times. You could read it 5 times, 7 times, 9 times, however much. But you should keep it an odd number. An odd number. Okay. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. Okay. Now you say Sami Allahu liman hamida. Right? What if instead of saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, you just don't say anything and you get up? Okay? You forgot to say Sami Allahu liman hamida. You just got up.
Okay, if it's then
Do you have to do sajda sahu? Is it fine or breaks your prayer?
it's fine.
Yes. So technically it won't, you don't have to do sajda sahu. What I mean by fine isn't like you should do it. You should say Sami Allahu liman hamida, you know, Allahumma rabbana wa lakal hamd, etc. You should do that. But I'm saying in the cases where you forget, for some, you know, usually I never really see people make that mistake. Sometimes you might say Allahu Akbar and get up from ruku by accident. One time I was in sajda and instead of saying Allahu Akbar, I said Sami Allahu liman hamida and got up. You know, that was embarrassing because I was leading prayer. But it doesn't break your prayer and you don't have to do sajda stuff. Okay? What if this is another important thing? Okay? What if let me just show you guys. What if someone does ruku like this?
They didn't even read anything because I was way too fast, and they couldn't have read 3 words in 1 second.
Okay, but we said, what if someone forgets to read anything?
Then it's fine. Or
Okay. Yes. So what about this thing? Anyone else have any ideas? Faria, you're on mute.
I was just talking to my brother.
Oh, okay. So, okay, Aryan says it's rushed. So what does that mean?
It's like way too fast.
No, yeah. So what do you have to do? Is it you just continue your prayer or do you have to do sajda sahu, or do you have to, repeat your prayer? Any Aryan? Yes. This is a big mistake. This is not small or medium. This is a big mistake because your ruku is not even counting. Your ruku, you have to at least stop. Let me. Okay, so which way is the qibla? Qibla is this way for me. Okay. So ruku, right? Allahu Akbar. Okay. At least enough where you pause. Okay. At least that's the minimum. You have to at least pause. Okay. Everyone can see. Allahu Akbar.
Like you can pause for like about 5 seconds and then come back up.
Yes, I'm showing the minimum. You have to at least pause. Right? Imagine this is like a person's back. Allahu Akbar. That's the minimum. This is not ruku. At least pause. So if you catch yourself, if you catch yourself just up and down without a pause, then the prayer is not going to count. Have to at least pause. And the best thing to do is read Subhana Rabbil Azim at least 3 times. Read Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, then get up. You don't need to rush our prayers. Prayers only takes a few minutes. It takes maybe like 5 minutes to pray. So we don't want to rush our prayers. Okay? Now, I know there's only a few minutes left, so let me try to wrap it up. I think we learned a few important things here, right? What you can, what happens if you forget to say certain things, because sometimes, we forget to do small things and then we're like, oh, I forgot to do that. And then let me repray. But in reality, you don't have to repray. And in some other things, you prayed too fast and your prayer didn't even count. So you want to make sure you're pausing, reading everything. Okay. Since we have 2 minutes left, I just want to quickly wrap it up. You go into sajda, same thing. You don't want to just touch your head and get up. You want to get down, touch your forehead and your nose. So imagine this is the floor, forehead and nose, and then get up. Okay. You get up, you go back down to sajda, you get up. Now, you read at-tahiyat, right? I think this is an important thing. What if you forget to read at-tahiyat? You're just sitting there quiet. Assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum. What do you have to do now?
You have to repeat it because that's probably the most important thing in that.
Yeah, so this, you said assalamu alaikum and then you remembered. So then you'll do your sajdas. You need to read at-tahiyat, basically. That's my point. My point is, you have to read it. And then after at-tahiyat, what do you read? If it's the last rakat, after at-tahiyat?
Salam.
Yes, you read the salam, right? Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, right? What if you skip that?
Sijda. Sahib.
Hmm?
To do the sijda.
So technically, you don't have to. You don't have to do a sajda. But if you should read it. But if you forget it, or like, oh, I finished my prayer, I forgot to read it, then your prayer is still fine. Just remember, the next time you pray, try to remember to read it. And then after salam, you read dua, say assalamu alaikum, right? Okay. So that was a very quick review of how to pray. It was very quick. Next week, we'll go in a little bit more detail about prayer. I'm going to ask some review questions to each one of you. At least how many? There's 7 people, right? So I'll ask 7 review questions about what we talked about today, and maybe some questions about the upcoming lesson, because there are some more details I want you guys to know. Everyone here knows how to pray, right? From Allahu Akbar to Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Everyone knows pretty much how to pray, how to make wudu. But what I want to talk about is those things which you have to make sure that, you know, what happens in this scenario, what happens in that scenario. Is my prayer valid? Do I have to do sajda sahu? Is my prayer fine? I don't have to do anything. I want to highlight those things because those things sometimes we don't usually know, or we forget. I mean, okay. So I'll see you guys next week. Try to review with each other, especially, you know, brothers and sisters. Try to review before class next week what we talked about, because I'm going to ask you these questions, and don't worry, I'm going to ask you some tricky questions. Okay. All right, guys. I'll see you next week at 1 o'clock.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz.
Practice.
Okay.